Hi, my name is Dan, and this is a video about the area of Hartford, Connecticut, where the Excel Center, originally called the Hartford Civic Center, is located today. This is a large area bounded by Trumbull Street on the east, Allyn Street on the west, Church Street on the north, and Asylum Street on the south. I won't be covering this large area in just one video. So in this video, I'm going to stick to just talking about the Trumbull Street side. This is where the main entrance to the building is located. In my next video, I'm going to talk about the missing section of Allyn Street, which used to extend from Trumbull Street on the east to Allyn Street on the west. So stay tuned for that video coming up. And in later videos, I can talk about the Asylum, and Church Street sides of the building as well. But turning our focus to Trumbull Street, there were a lot of interesting things here, including a notable hotel, the Hartford County Court House, and the home of one of the city's private clubs. Today, at the corner of Trumbull and Asylum Streets, is Hartford 21, a 36-story office and apartment building erected between 2004 and 2006. It replaced what had been the southeast corner of the old Civic Center Mall, which was demolished in 2004. Going back even further in time, this corner was the site of the old Allyn House Hotel, erected in 1857. Designed by the architect Octavius Jordan, it was for a number of years the city's most luxurious hotel. It went through a lavish remodeling in 1898 to the designs of architect Isaac A. Allyn, Jr. I have an entire video devoted to the Allyn House, which I'll link to in the description below. After many decades of being one of Hartford's premier hotels, the Allyn House experienced a decline in later years, and it was finally demolished in 1960. Just north of the hotel, along Trumbull Street, was an annex, erected in the early 1880s. The annex was built directly in front of an old house that stood here. The house was set slightly back from the line of Trumbull Street. This is a section from the 1877 bird's eye view of Hartford, showing the area where the Civic Center would be built almost a century later. It shows the Allyn House on the corner. Just north of it is the house that I just mentioned, which was purchased by Timothy M. Allyn shortly before he built the Allyn House Hotel next door. Allyn also served as mayor of Hartford, and it is possible that when Abraham Lincoln visited Hartford in 1860, he stayed at Allyn's house here off Trumbull. The house was later incorporated into the hotel, and, as I mentioned, the annex was built right in front of it. When Lincoln was in Hartford, he spoke at Allyn Hall, which was located just west of the hotel on Asylum Street. This was later the site of the E.M. Lowe's movie theater. The Connecticut Historical Society has a photograph taken in 1926 that shows the Allyn Barn. This structure was built in about 1881 to the rear of the old Allyn House and just north behind Allyn Hall. By 1919, it was being rented by Frank H. Rowley, joiner and jobber. Returning to the 1877 view, between the Allyn property and the corner of Allyn Street, there were two old houses. One was called the Trumbull House. I think it was a rooming house. It was owned by former Connecticut Governor Marshall Jewell. The other, on the corner of Allyn Street, was owned by Dr. George B. Hawley, one of Hartford's most prominent physicians at the time. These houses were torn down to make way for the construction of the county building, which was also known as the Hartford County Court House. It was erected between 1882 and 1884 to a design by architect John C. Meade. He and George Keller, architect of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch in Hartford, had both submitted plans for the building, and the county commissioners had chosen Meade's design, which was described as being in the French Renaissance style. It was built of brick with terracotta and brownstone trimmings. The Hartford Courant newspaper described the plan for the building on February 16, 1882. Quote, "The main entrance will be into a wide corridor on the Trumbull Street side, which will be intercepted midway by the corridor opening on Allyn Street. The staircase is of iron, of easy ascent, with broad landings and airy well holes extending through the several stories. An elevator is also provided for. The stories are basement, first, second, mezzanine, and third. The basement contains, besides the necessary arrangements for heating, etc., a tier of cells for the temporary confinement of prisoners during the sessions of courts. The criminal court is provided for on the main floor with a room 38 by 50 feet, and nearby are rooms for the judge, state's attorney, and sheriff, all grouped and arranged to give the best communication with the courtroom, while ample provision has been made for juries and witnesses. A large vault will be located on the main floor for the keeping of records. On the second floor are 2 rooms, each 38 by 50 feet, for the superior and criminal courts, the ceilings of which, carried up through the mezzanine story, finish 25 feet from the floor. Connected or nearby are rooms for the judge, jury, sheriff, and attendants. The mezzanine story provides for clerk and jury, and the third story will furnish conveniences for the county library and for any extra need that may arise. Each floor is supplied with all the necessary toilet conveniences. The ventilation is treated in such a manner as will ensure an abundance of pure air." Unquote. When the building was completed in 1884, the Courant declared, quote, "It is a solid piece of masonry and ironwork from foundation to roof, and is absolutely fireproof, and with all the heavy weight and immense proportions, there is not a crack in the walls. This shows faithful work on the part of the builder, the Honorable John R. Hills, who has devoted his personal attention to all details." Unquote. An addition was added to the rear of the building in about 1903. On January 1, 1917, when the building had been standing over 30 years, the Courant reported, quote, "There will be no occasion for people in the future, when standing in front of the county building, to ask where that building is or where the courthouse is. The county building was built in 1884, but from that time to yesterday, there had never been anything on it to denote what the building is or its character. The county commissioners had a sign painter at work on the building yesterday, and now, on the front transom, in a half circle, are the words Hartford County Building. Then follows the street number, 325, and the words Courthouse." Unquote. The old county building was still in use until January of 1929, when the new Hartford County Building on Washington Street opened. This Art Deco building still stands today. The state of Connecticut did away with county governments in 1960, So the former county building on Washington Street is now the Hartford Judicial District Court. As for the 1884 county building, it was torn down in 1930 and eventually replaced with a parking garage. On the north corner of Allyn and Trumbull Streets was a one-story commercial structure. This was actually an extension on the south side of an old house on the corner. At the time of this 1916 photograph, the extension was being used as the offices of the Warfield Carpet Cleaning Company. Just west of the house was a 5-story building on Allyn Street that had 2 matching projecting sections on its front facade, each topped by a pyramidal roof. The building was erected around 1894. As for the house, this is an earlier photograph of the building, taken in the 1890s, before it was converted to commercial use and the addition added to the south end. A Federal-style house, it was built in about the year 1800 by Colonel Samuel Belcher. At the time, his property extended west halfway to Ann Street, and the rear section was used as a small farm. This is a view north up Trumbull Street taken after the blizzard of 1888. The Belcher house is on the left, and just north of it, there were 2 gable-roofed houses. This photograph was taken about 30 years later. It is a view south down Trumbull Street from the intersection with Church Street. At the corner, just north of the Belcher house and its 2 gable-fronted neighbors, was a commercial building. Its tenants at the time included Henry J. Monaco Real Estate and Insurance and W. J. Aiken and Company Auto Accessories and Electrical Goods. On the right is a 1950s view of the block of Trumbull Street between Allyn and Church. The commercial building on the corner was still there, with its second story painted white. Just to the south, the Belcher house and the other 2 houses on the block had been replaced by the City Club building, which was erected in 1923-24. The City Club of Hartford was a private club incorporated in 1913. It had occupied quarters on Central Row before moving into its new building at Trumbull and Allyn Street in 1924. The club occupied the 3rd floor of its new building, with the rest of it being rented out. The entrance to the club was on the Allyn Street side of the building, where there was a private lobby and elevator. In 1930, the club opened an indoor golf course on the building's 2nd floor, but they were able to acquire an outdoor golf course after the Second World War. In 1945, the club purchased the Avon Country Club, which became known as the Golf Club of Avon. As for the building's commercial spaces, for some years the ground floor of the City Club building was occupied by the Lane Furniture Company, which eventually moved to Farmington Avenue in West Hartford in 1947. In 1970, when the construction of the Civic Center was imminent, the City Club itself moved to new quarters at Constitution Plaza. The club has since closed. Of course, the entire area I've been talking about in this video was eventually leveled to make way for the Civic Center, which had its opening ceremonies in January of 1975. The building would undergo some dramatic changes over the years. In the early hours of January 18, 1978, the Civic Center Coliseum's roof collapsed, just 6 hours after there'd been 4,746 fans attending a Yukon basketball game. The roof was rebuilt in 1980. A major change on the Trumbull Street side of the building came at the end of the 1980s, when a pedestrian bridge over the street was attached to the building at the north corner of Trumbull and Pratt Streets. This bridge was later removed, and, as I described at the start of the video, the entire building was altered almost 2 decades ago when the Civic Center Mall was eliminated and the Hartford 21 building was built. The former Civic Center has been known as the XL Center since 2007. Well, that concludes this video. I have many other videos on my YouTube channel about lost buildings of Hartford, so please consider checking those out. And if you haven't, also please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also hit the like button and leave a comment below. Also check out my website, historicbuildingsct.com. Thanks.